Hey, how you doing, both? You good?
Yeah, good, thank you. Good.
So you training for a marathon, are you?
Yeah, Brighton Marathon in about 4 weeks,
Oh,
so
what have you signed up for?
starting to get a bit real now.
Yeah, this is the first marathon you've done.
I've done one before, but it's Harriet's first one.
Okay, well at least you're in it together, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, I'll be waiting for her to finish line with a beer or something.
Or, or she'll be pulling you along, one or the other, mate.
Yeah, one or the other. Either that or be in an ambulance or something.
Well, you signed up for it now, so you got to finish it, yeah.
Yeah, can't back out.
No, that's good, man. That's good. I like that stuff. That's quality.
Cheers. Um,
How can I help you, my friend?
yeah, so the reason we wanted to do this call today, Luke, is because
Hmm.
we're both keen to get into property,
Sure.
which really just want a bit of clarity, I think, at the other end of this meeting.
Hmm.
I just want your advice as well, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, so the first bit of advice we want is we've got a pool of money kind of tied up in the flat we're in now.
Hmm.
Uh, we're kind of leaning towards staying here and doing a loft conversion.
Hmm.
But I think all options are still open for us, aren't they? So we're thinking either to sell this place,
Hmm.
and I think that will give us about £200,000 in that sort of region.
Yep.
From the sale, which we would have to take about £100,000 out for a deposit for somewhere else.
Yep. To live.
That leaves us with a roughly 100,000,
Hmm.
and then minus stamp duty and all that, about 90,000, there or thereabouts.
Sure.
Um, and solicitors' fees and all that sort of stuff. On the other hand, we're thinking about remortgaging here,
Hmm.
which would give us around 77,000.
70?
77,000.
77. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is all kind of coming about a little bit because our 5 year fixed rate is coming up in September.
Good. So you're
So
trying to make
it's
a
sort
plan.
of time. It's using it just as a bit of a starter gun, I think, just to get things
Hmm.
going.
Hmm. Okay.
Um, so we've got these pots of money that we think we might end up with. So around 75,000 to 90,000,
Hmm.
and just really want to know the best way to utilize this money. Really make
Yeah.
Just
make the most of it, sort of thing.
yeah, we do have like so I've got 35k
Yeah. Harriet's got some
cash
savings as
saved as
well.
well.
Okay.
Uh,
So if you add 35 onto that,
yeah, I've been I sort of been following your Instagram for a while.
mm.
Hmm.
So I kind of get the gist of rent to rent. Harriet seems a little bit skeptical about rent to rent.
Pretty normal.
Just explain why. Come into the chat and
Pretty
explain why.
Oh,
normal. Pretty normal. I literally speak to probably two or three couples a day
Yeah,
where one or the other is a bit more skeptical. So it's totally
yeah.
fine. I understand. Let me put to bed your skepticism.
yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I think rent to rent. I think we can add because we want to do buy to lets as well. I know the margins are getting squeezed for buy to lets quite a lot at the moment.
Hmm.
I just think a mixture of rent to rent while we're at this early stage of where we want to be,
Yeah,
um, and then buy to lets. I think it's a good idea to sort of use both of them,
absolutely. Yeah.
because rent to rent, I think, can sort of it can bring in a good amount of income. I think,
Fair enough.
but that's just what I think. I think obviously we're a bit uneducated on it,
Yeah,
a
yeah.
little bit because we haven't done anything yet. We're a bit sort of like scared to dip our toes in the water.
Got you.
And location and all that sort of stuff. We don't really know where or how to do any of it at the moment, do we?
Yeah, I think my view is yeah, rent to rent. I don't. Yeah, you can obviously educate me. I just don't see the
Hmm.
benefit in it. I think it's a lot of work, but you
Yeah.
don't own the property.
Well,
Hmm.
just for this is just what I say to her because I sort of rented this place out on Airbnb
Hmm.
a couple
Yeah,
of years ago,
Hmm.
and that would have brought in because I only would have done it like 2 weeks a month. That would have brought in about £1,500 a month to my
Hmm.
pockets, sort of thing.
Hmm.
Um,
Net.
so it's just like for me in that sense, it makes a lot more sense to me because I might be someone who just moves to Australia for a year and be like, oh, can you look after the flat for a year, do the Airbnb or whatever? Do you know what I
Hmm.
mean? So there's always a scenario where rent to rent could work.
Yeah, yeah.
And I've sort of not really had first hand experience in it, but I've got some where what I've seen the benefits of renting things out on Airbnb or whatever
Yeah, yeah. Short-term stays.
for short term. But for me, it was obviously risk free because it was my place. I could just sort of do it as and when I pleased.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Okay.
we really just want to come away from this meeting. ideally with just a plan in our heads about what to do.
Well, that's what I'm here for. So let's make a
Yeah,
plan then, shall we?
yeah, let's do it.
So out of that money, I would advise you to spend the majority of it on buy-to-lets
Okay.
because, the appreciation, the wealth aspect of it, as well as getting the income from the passive income, it's a
Yeah.
no-brainer.
Okay.
You said there's some areas where you feel like the margins are going to be squeezed out in different parts, but I think there's some great opportunities in the north, northeast,
Yeah.
northwest, over in Wales, all over there's places where you can get high returns.
Yeah.
Typically speaking, you want to be aiming for like a 10% return on the capital that you put in per deal.
Yeah.
So if it was like a 30 grand investment, say for
Yeah.
example, on like 100 grand house, you're going to pay stamp duty and things like that. So say 30 grand all in with your deposit.
Yeah.
Mm.
You should be aiming to get at least sort of 300 per month cash flow.
Okay.
And that's after all your costs.
Okay.
Most of mine are doing like 350, 370,
Yeah.
because rents slowly increase over the years as well, as I'm
Yeah.
sure you know. So it starts at 300 and it grows. So sort of 3,600 to 4 grand per year in terms of
Yeah.
net income is where you want to be at. That's normally the sign of a good deal.
Okay.
So you're getting that 10% from the money that you've put in, but you're also getting the sort of 5/6% in some areas appreciation every year as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So if you look at like Savills house price forecast, they're expecting like 26 to 30% increases in some parts of the country.
Mhm.
Is that a 5 year forecast? Is it?
It's to 2028, 2029. So
So even less sort of thing.
yeah, over the next sort of 4 years roughly, So just sort of figuratively speaking, if you were to put 30 grand in now to a typical buy to let, you could be looking at withdrawing that same 30 grand, 25 grand of it in 3, 4 years time as a refinance,
Yeah.
Mhm.
still leaving 25% in the house. So you've got your nice bit of equity in there. So you can get a good mortgage rate always, but then also using that money to then go and buy another one.
Yeah. Right.
But you can be a bit more aggressive with it. You get to keep the asset, keep your 25% in, but then draw down the additional equity that you've generated from just
Yeah.
buying and holding.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think just straight off the bat, like if you said you got 70 and you got an extra 30 there, if we said 90 of that went into three buy to lets in 3, 4 years time, you could be looking at getting most of that 90 back out and buying three more, and then you'd have
Yeah.
six.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, if they're all making sort of 300, 350 each, you're going to add £1,800 to 2 grand of passive income to your household then,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which would be a great position to be in, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that would be great.
That's
Yeah.
what we Can I ask a question? Because
Of course.
we're in London,
Mm-hmm.
but we obviously look at the north. I'm technically from the north. We know
hmm
Manchester really well.
hmm
Um, would you advise buying properties in northern university towns and having them as student accommodation?
Yeah, I mean, you could do.
Like, do you, because then it would be like four people. I mean, I spent extortionate amount of rent on my uni house,
hmm
and
You
there's
could do.
five of you.
You could do to maximize the income, but it just depends, like because I've got the rent to rent business, that's quite busy and hectic. So what I personally buy for myself tends to be more like just two,
Family.
3 bed
Yeah.
houses. Yeah.
It's
I
easy
do.
to like run and maintain.
Yeah, I just want them to just
Yeah.
be easy because I'm busy enough with the business, but I do sort of float between the two where I'll like furnish them and then I'll rent them to like doctors, nurses, engineers, people like that, and they normally pay a little bit more than your typical family price. So,
Yeah.
on average, I'll get maybe 400, 450 with some of the buy-to-lets just from setting them up almost like Airbnbs, but rather than doing all the donkey work, I just rent them to like medium-term 6-month tenancies to
Yeah.
people that are moving around on work placements. And I find
Mhm.
that to
Somewhere in
be like
between.
yeah, I find that to be pretty straightforward for myself, and it's less time consuming.
Yeah. 100%.
So,
Um, one question I have, Luke, is
mhm,
I think I think just by like absolute necessity, our region is sort of the northwest, just
mhm,
because affordability,
mhm,
or northwest, North Wales, just affordable areas.
mhm.
Um, Do you think it's better to be spread the money wider in sort of commuter towns, i.e., places that will go into places like Liverpool, Manchester,
Hmm.
Birmingham, those sort of in that in between area commuter towns, or do
Hmm.
you think it's better to go into the major cities and just put more money into one basket sort of thing, if that makes
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, it does. I mean, like, I think both can work. Like, mine are in Wales, and they're probably half an hour away from Cardiff, which is obviously the capital. And like anywhere, you get that ripple effect of like people moving outwards to get a bit more space, a bit more green space,
Mm.
a bigger house, for their money. So we've seen really good returns from doing that since like 2020. Yeah, 2020 is when we started. And we've had like 30% appreciation over those sort of 4 years from the sort of more suburban areas, half an hour away from the city. So I think spreading your money out a little bit outside of the city in good quality houses that are like gonna stand the test of time, like your good 2 bed, 3 bed terraces. If there's a bit of off-road parking, even better.
Yeah,
But just good quality houses that are in decent areas, near schools, near transport links. As
Yeah.
long as you follow those sort of guidelines, you can't really go wrong, guys. You know, it's
yeah,
it's the demand right now in the rental market's crazy. Like some of those houses that I mentioned in Wales, we put them online, and we've got like 20 people queuing up to rent them straight away. And these aren't just like bad tenants. These are people with good paying jobs. Dentists,
yeah,
doctors. Like
Mhm.
we get to sort of pick through them and really choose the best ones.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So I would advise, rather than being as close to like those bigger cities and maybe only getting two out of that pot, I would actually probably recommend maybe trying to get three a little bit further out,
Yeah,
um, and then getting to benefit from the multiple, the appreciation across three properties rather than just the two or one.
yeah. Oh, yeah, I agree. I mean, in my head, what works best is doing the commuter towns, but making sure the houses or properties are close to those of like the train
Yeah,
stations
yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
to get in. Do you know what I mean? If you're
Yeah,
going too far from the train station, there's no point doing it in my eyes. Or there's less pull to like that sort of
yeah,
house or area or
exactly.
whatever.
But then equally, sometimes in those quieter areas, there's certain jobs that are going on, Amazon depots popping up, new
Yeah.
developments happening, and then there's contractors that need those types of properties, and they're
Yeah.
happy to pay a premium as well. So I think as long as you focus on it being a good quality house, and it's near enough, to those sort of transport links, then you're going to be okay.
Yeah, right.
Mhm.
Okay. Is there anything you want to ask, Lou?
Um, oh yeah, the 90K, that's obviously just to buy the house. So we'd need the three like houses, say. You'd
Hmm.
obviously need chunk more to do up the houses.
Not necessarily. So the ones that we're buying, we sort of buy like 7 to 8 condition out of 10. So they're
Okay.
pretty much
Okay.
ready to go. Um,
Okay.
I've painted and decorated a couple of them myself. My missus, nothing too fancy, but just getting it done. You'll be doing that by the
Yeah,
Yeah.
sounds of things, Ash. Um,
I was
yeah.
gonna,
and
yeah.
uh, and yeah, nothing more than that really. I'm not trying to take on any back to brick properties. I
Oh,
find
okay.
dealing with builders, we have done that before in the past and bought like 50 grand house and done it up and then refinanced it. But I mean, the amount of time it's taken, sort of 8, 9 months to get it onto a mortgage. Your money's tied up in it, and dealing with builders can be a bit of a nightmare. They're not really like business people. They're not the best communicators. They're off down the pub certain times when you need them to be doing work and that. So I just find buying like the 7 to 8 out of 10 condition ones that are pretty much ready to be rented. You may need to give them a lick of paint, maybe, furnish them like we mentioned earlier on, but
Yeah.
generally speaking, you're not doing any sort of extensive refurbishment. I think the most I've spent on one of them is like 5 grand, and that was like mainly spent on just furniture and paint and decorations, really.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
That's good to know.
Yeah, so I think you
Definitely.
can find those ones for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm an electrician, so
Yeah.
Hmm.
I I do back to brick things almost every
Hmm.
week. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
it's,
yeah,
it's almost second nature.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
To
the
me, in a
temptation's
sense,
there, isn't
I
it?
don't know how to run a sort of
Refurb.
back to brick. I'm in and amongst it, but running
Yeah.
it is the sort of
I
thing.
mean, yeah, listen, it's a romance to it, isn't there? Of obviously like
Yeah,
taking it from one thing and turning it into something else. But I just, in my experience from doing it, I just feel like efficiency kind of trumps romance in this game. I
Yeah,
just feel like you want to move quick and get the income coming in quicker,
that's
um, and move
and then
forward.
my only other question
Hmm.
was if you had any advice that we could take advantage of. So Ash owns this flat. I'm
Hmm.
not even, I live here obviously, but I'm not even on the mortgage.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm a first time buyer.
Hmm.
And so
Uh,
obviously we want to do this all together, but can we take advantage in the fact that I think that you get like discounts and stuff? So
Hmm.
one could just be in my name, for example.
Yeah.
Is,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a good question, Luke, because in my head, all of these properties would be through a limited company, so
oh,
taken away all the first time buyer things and stuff.
oh, okay.
Hmm.
Just I've explained to her about the tax benefits of doing it in limited company.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
would you still get that first time
Um,
buyer in a limited company?
I've had these same conversations with my missus, funnily enough. There are benefits to obviously getting the first time buyer discount. You get like a cheaper deposit, things like that. But I don't know. I don't, for me, because I'm self-employed, because being a business owner, you still have to put down like 25% anyway. So I never
Mm,
got to benefit from that cheaper deposit. So I guess that decision was kind of made for me
yeah,
Mm.
from my circumstances, you know. But I mean, I guess it could be an option to explore, you know. You just have to do the numbers and work out if it'd be worthwhile you doing, because you're still going to have to get consent to let on it to be able to sort of rent it out if you wanted to
Yeah.
anyway, which obviously can cost a little bit more, and you know bit of back and forth between
Okay.
you and the
yeah,
lender, whereas you could just go straight into the buy to let business and
yeah.
So
build
so
it.
we'll just yeah, we'll do the numbers, but so there's no like major scream out
So
massive
Mm,
advantage to
no, because I think to get the first time buyer, sorry, baby, first time buyer things, you have to get on a home mortgage, don't you? And then to let it out,
residential.
you have to change the mortgage over anyway.
Yeah, you'd have to
Might
get
be a waste of first time
you
buyer
get it on a
benefit.
residential mortgage, which would be like it's a standard residential, but you'd get like 5 times your income roughly to from a lender to get
yeah.
it over the line, but you'd still be paying a residential, which would be the interest and the repayment as well. Whereas if
Mm,
you set
Okay.
up the buy to lets in a limited company, you're probably going to go interest only,
yeah,
so you're only going to be paying the interest, so that allows you to make more money every month.
yeah,
Okay, great.
So I don't think you're missing out on much by not exploring that, to be honest. I think
Yeah.
I teach quite a few people to go straight in to just buy their first buy to let rather than falling for
yeah.
the allure of the first time buyer discount, because I don't know if it's
Yeah.
really that necessary.
Okay.
I think if we do a lock conversion here and then do the buy to lets in a limited company, we can still save the first time buyer things for the next place if we do that, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, is there any sort of areas in the Northwest, Luke, that you invest in that you could highlight as potential
Yeah, I mean, I don't
areas?
invest up there. I'm mainly in Wales, but I do have a couple students that I've just helped. I've got one lady who just bought in Nottingham,
Mm.
130 grand, 140 grand, I think it was. Nice two bed and terrace, garden, off-road parking, pretty good. You know, she's had offers already to rent it for like, I think 900, 950. She's holding out for a little bit. I think she wants 975 or 1,000, but the mortgage is like 330 quid, something like that. So good opportunities up there in Nottingham. I've helped a couple people buy in and around the Liverpool area, similar sort of price, sort of around the 150, between 130, 150 mark. If you just go on Savills and have a look and see like for
Yeah.
yourself the forecast of those types of areas in the northwest and the northeast, you can sort of whittle it down to a few areas. But ultimately, you know, like we mentioned earlier, you're not really going to go wrong as long as it's in a good area where there's transport links and schools and stuff, you know.
All right. Um, Brilliant. I mean, really, I think for me, yeah, this is something that's been in my head for a while. It's just about sort of doing it, isn't it? I think that's what it is. I think just getting the wheels turning on one, maybe two properties or whatever is affordable, and then
Yeah.
once they turn
Yeah.
in, just kind of like let go of the handlebars a little bit and just kind
Yeah.
of go for it.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. You'll feel a lot better once the money's in and you actually got tenants in and you got that first bit of income, and then you'll be like, okay, yeah, this is
Yeah.
I could get used to this, you know.
yeah, yeah. So in terms, this is just actually a question that's popped into my head. So if we was to
Hmm.
remortgage,
Hmm.
this 5-year fixed rate will come to an end in September.
Hmm.
if we wanted to pull out the money, say next week or as early as possible, would we jump straight onto that new mortgage sort of thing, or would we have to wait till the end of September to access the money? Or if we was to do it next week, would we have to pay an early repayment, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, it
Like,
depends. Like
if we wanted
if
the money next week, could we sort of organize that to happen, basically?
I don't know if it'll be next week. You know, you sound quite
Well,
optimistic like
early,
me.
yeah, you know what I mean.
That's like me.
Have
I
it
think
for a little
everything.
bit, run around with it, and then just
Yeah, I
see
always
it
think
go out
everything's
again.
gonna happen next week.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but then my missus tells
Can't
me,
buy us a house next week, Luke. Yeah, we'll get it rented out the week after. Don't worry.
yeah, I think everything happens next week, but it doesn't always happen next week. But sometimes it might take a few weeks. Like I got a remortgage going through at the moment. They've just sent a valuer out. They went on Wednesday to value it. I haven't heard anything back yet. I'm waiting.
Yeah. Oh,
Hopefully in the next week or so, I'll hear something back and be able to pull a chunk of money out of that one as well.
Um,
It's probably going to take a few weeks from when you
Yeah,
actually
okay.
get the ball rolling,
that's
but I would advise you to do that, you know?
yeah, definitely. That's actually just led me to a question that I thought about earlier, Luke.
Hmm.
So to pull the most out of this flat, I know we need to get the lender their valuation as high as possible because we had an estate agent round last week.
Hmm.
They said upper end sell about 425, but
Hmm.
I don't think it'll go that far. I think if I actually sold it, it'd be about 415 sort of
Hmm.
thing.
Hmm.
But like on my Halifax app, who is my mortgage provider now,
Hmm.
they value the property between 375 and 380.
Hmm.
How do we get the lender as high as we can to remortgage and pull out as much as we can?
I mean, if you figure out how to do that, I think every investor in the
Oh,
world
yeah.
would
Wow.
want to know
Is that the
exactly
golden
how.
question, is it?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
okay,
like,
yeah.
I
I
asked the
wondered if
same
there was a little
question.
brown envelope we could get them or
Yeah,
something.
it's similar to everything being done next week, mate. You know, it's one of those ones where
Yeah.
it's like, um, I don't know. I've had cases in the past where I've been downvalued by one lender, and then I've got on the phone with a broker, and they've sent a different lender out 2 weeks later, and they've upvalued it 20 grand more than what that person
Yeah.
downvalued it at. So it's just, it depends, man. It depends what their criteria is. It depends what mood they're in on the day. They
Yeah.
normally analyze within like 0.25 of a mile from your house, like for like comparisons. I find Zoopla to be kind of accurate, you know, doing house prices on Zoopla and getting to the bottom of it that way. They're quite accurate, but again, sometimes I've had valuations that have been higher than the Zoopla estimate as well. So it's going to be just a case of getting the first valuation done and seeing where you get to from there, you know.
Okay.
Okay, great.
All right.
I think,
Perfect.
my just final question, should
Hmm.
we say your course thing, should we get the money from the remortgage and then book that course? Like we should have the cash in our hand and
Yeah,
then
I
book the
mean,
course before.
yeah, I guess that would be the more the logical way to do
Sensible.
it.
Yeah,
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 but I
yeah.
mean, ultimately, you know, we're going to be doing the same things regardless. We're going to be on Zoom together, looking at places, shortlisting some and getting some viewings organized. So as long as you know the money's definitely coming, then you know we could move whenever you need to move. But probably more logical to get the money at least on the way,
Okay,
and then get it booked, and then we can go from there.
okay.
Okay.
Thank
I think
you.
that's what we do then, yeah? We'll speak
Mm-hmm.
to Alan.
We'll speak to Alan.
No?
Speak to Alan. Do you
Yeah.
feel a bit more clear now?
Yes.
I think so, yeah. I think
Yeah.
just talking out loud is just
Yeah, it's nice
sort
to
of
talk about
redirect
it.
it.
Yeah, I think you're in a great position, guys, man. I think depending on where you want what you want to do over the next part of your life, but you could be pretty much £2,000, 2.5 grand coming in passively, which is a fantastic position to be in, you know, like gives you more
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
options then and you've got multiple houses going up in value and you're on the way to becoming, you know, pretty wealthy, you know. So I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
you're in a good position. So yeah, good plan.
Thank
Brilliant.
you so much.
Thanks for your
That's all
time,
right.
Luke.
That's all right, no
Um,
worries.
and we'll definitely, I reckon, be booking a mentorship once everything's sorted with a mortgage and that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool,
Thank you
cool.
so much.
That's all right, no worries. Look out for the email. It does tend to go into people's spams. So
Okay.
just have a look in the junk and yeah, hopefully I hear from you guys soon.
Yeah, definitely.
Perfect.
Have a good weekend.
You too, you too. Take care both.
See you
Bye.
later.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
bye.